Hey swimmers, welcome back to the SWIMVICE channel. This episode is on what happens or why your stroke falls apart when you try to breathe in freestyle.
Okay swimmers, now before we get started, if you find value in the SWIMVICE channel, show your support by staying connected and subscribing to the channel by clicking the button at the bottom right hand corner. Okay swimmers, so if you're watching this video and you've asked yourself, why do you fall apart when you try to breathe in freestyle? Well, here are two common habits that cause this feeling to occur. The first one is pressing and lifting your head higher on the surface of the water to try and breathe, which is supported either just by your head or both your head and your arm, as well as rotating too far or trying to do extra movement to try to get your breath. So I'm going to go through two video demonstrations going through and demonstrating those two common habits as well as correcting it so you can see it, how the difference is with my body position for both lifting my head out, over rotating, and correcting it further on. All right, swimmers, let's get to the video. Okay, so here in a few strokes, I'm going to take a breath and my head lifts out of the water and I kind of fall apart briefly until I get back on track. So right here in this freeze frame, you can see that my right arm has fallen. My head is lifted out of the water, pretty much looking back. And so it's a combination of lifting my head out of the water with my right arm and rotating too much. And you see what happens. I fight more resistance and I fall apart for that moment. Again, this is from another angle. So you see how my hand is up, and that's really what happens when you try to lift your head out of the water is you're almost bracing that kind of fall with your hand and your arm, which then lifts your torso higher out of the water, which further sinks your body line. So this is what happens when you feel that falling apart motion as you're trying to swim freestyle and breathe more often. So here in this freeze frame is corrected, where my head is low, rotating just enough, but most importantly, you see that my left arm is still extended out front and it's not up on the surface trying to lift my head out of the water versus it's just rolling and rotating for that breath. So then you'll see again as I breathe for the next stroke is that I just roll for my breath. Don't over rotate, rotate just enough. Most importantly, I'm not lifting my head out of the water. It stays in the same position, just roll for the breath. This is where you create that pocket or the bow wave, and you see that my left arm is relaxed. This will help you stay stable, without falling apart when you're trying to swim freestyle and breathe. So overall, your stroke should feel relaxed and consistent, whether you breathe or you don't breathe. And the key is to not have to lift your head out of the water to take a breath, because that's what causes that falling apart feeling. Every time you breathe, it should feel as consistent as your non-breathing strokes. So again, here you can see the pocket formed and my head's neutral, and I roll for that breath, keeping my right arm relaxed without propping myself with that right arm. And that's how you get an easier breath. Okay, so here underwater, you're going to see as I do the same mistake, how I fall apart for that moment trying to breathe. You also see my body sinking. So there's a couple of key points I will point out, and that is as I go to breathe again, you will see that my left arm is extended up and I'm trying to lift my head out of the water. So what happens to my body line is that as I extend higher on the surface and I try to breathe by over-rotating, my body will completely sink, and that is due to the over-rotation and the weight of my high side arm lifting on top of my body. So that's where you feel that you're falling apart. If you extend too high on the surface and try to look back or all the way up to get your breath. So here you can see again with that left arm being my breathing arm is extended too high, my shoulder is lower than my hand. I have to then reach or look higher to get the air because my body's physically sinking. And so then the next step is that left arm that is where my hand is will then fall, and I will fight more resistance moving forward after I complete a breath. So this is why it feels different than when you are not breathing, if you are adding these extra movements. Again, here's just another length, and I'm just playing it through so you can see how those two habits will disrupt your timing and your rhythm of your breath. And also, you'll end up spending too much time to breathe because you don't need that much time. It's a small window to breathe. Any more than that adds extra movement. So here, the breath is corrected, and you see that the arm, or my body line, is nice and straight. My head's just out of the water a little bit, my one goggle's under the water, and most importantly, that right arm is not extended higher, or my hand is extended higher than my shoulder line. It's slightly below. And this will help keep you stable without feeling like you're falling apart, because essentially your breathing strokes should be very similar to your non-breathing strokes. The only difference is you're taking a breath. So again, in this freeze frame right here, notice my right hand is lower than my right shoulder, slightly. This keeps you stable, relaxed, so you can take a breath easy without feeling like you're panicking. So the bottom line is you want to keep your body line as high on the surface as possible, avoiding over-rotating, lifting your head to get the air, because if you do lift your head to get the air, you end up sacrificing by sinking and also sitting lower in the water, so you end up getting more water. So the key is to stay low and relaxed when you breathe. Here's just a combination of correcting the breath versus lifting. So you see here my arm falls, try to get back on track, and here take a stable breath, which is relaxed, and it does not disrupt your stroke timing within the stroke cycle. Here it falls apart again. Got to get back on track and correct.
All right, swimmers, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you have any questions, drop a comment below and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. All right, swimmers, enjoy your practice and I will see you all next week.